Good morning, everybody. Here we are. Here we are. That's a good start. We're here now. That's what meditation is all about, isn't it? How to be here and now. What does it mean to be here and now? Did you guys watch that first video I recommended for you to look at? The one where there is that guided meditation where I ask you to watch when you hear the sound of the bell, if there is a thought, if it's a thought about the future or the past. Remember? Who didn't see that video? Raise your hand. Okay. Maybe we'll practice it later. But it's a good practice, that one. That's why I want to do it again. Well, basically, I was asking to watch the thought in the moment you hear that sound of the bell, to watch the thought that's happening in that moment and see what is it about this thought that is happening in this moment. Yeah. Because oftentimes we are not even conscious enough to notice first that we're thinking and then what we're thinking. So it's a very good exercise to stop in that moment because you hear a sound and you look, oh, I was lost in this thought. And what is this thought all about? Then you look at it. It's like analyzing it, but very, very briefly. Yeah. Oh, I was, imagining whatever, so future. Or I was remembering that time or what I did yesterday or what happened an hour ago, whatever, then it's past. So the thinking mind or the egoic mind, with that exercise, let's call it, we become aware that this mind is never in the present moment, the thinking mind. Thoughts are always about either future or past. So there's not much to think about the present moment. So when we are actually present in the presence, there's nothing to do for that mind. So the mind gets a little restless, but we actually want to explore that space between two thoughts. That is where that sense of presence happens. So to be here and now means, in a way, to be in that gap between two thoughts. When the thought that was happening is ended and before the next one starts. In that space of no thoughts, we can experience the present moment in its, let's call it in its purity, because it's not filtered or polluted by the mind and by an interpretation. So it's available to us, the present moment, it's available to us in its clarity, in its purity for what it is. The mind always tries to interpret, color, distort the mind is always distorting the present reality, one way or another. Maybe it's a nice distortion, pleasant. Maybe it's not so pleasant. It doesn't matter. It's still an interpretation. So to be able to just be in that moment, in that gap, in that space, means to be present. What we want to add to that presence in the gap is a sense of alertness, awareness. There are qualities of being. So meditation, it's all about being. It doesn't matter. It has no relevance what you do on the path of meditation. The only thing that has any relevance is that you are. What you do is not important at all. But what and how you are, it is. That's the main thing. So being present means being in that present moment, in that gap between two thoughts, and being aware and alert of everything that is arising, everything that is perceived in that moment, in that gap, outside and inside. Now, outside and inside are very loose definitions, but normally the mind thinks, oh, this is my skin. So on this side is the outside, and on the other side is the inside. Well, it's not quite like that. But let's keep it for good for now. So I am aware of what's happening outside, so in the world around me, in the environment around me. That means I am very alert in my senses, because the senses are the doorway that allows me to perceive the outer world. So I hear sounds, I see what is happening, I smell, I touch the world. So there is an awareness of the environment, or whatever that's happening around me, if I am present. Yeah. If I'm not, we go back to the example of the cup of tea, right? The other 2 sessions ago. You can be aware, completely aware, present with drinking a cup of tea, or you can be so much lost in your thought and all the things that you have to do today that before you know it, the cup is empty and you didn't even realize you were drinking the cup of tea, right? So if we're present through the senses, we perceive the outer world. And then if we're present, we also perceive the inner world. And there are senses that we don't even have defined. There are inner senses too, but they don't somehow, our society is so outward oriented that we didn't come up with the definitions of the inner senses, but they exist. For example, to feel the breath, the breathing while it's happening, could you define it as what? What sense do you use for that? It's really none of the 5 senses that we use. And yet we perceive it clearly, right? So there are outer senses and inner senses for which we don't have a name, but nevertheless, they're there. So we use this inner sensing to perceive, okay, I perceive the outer world, but what's happening in the inner. That is presence. So we could say that consciousness is a 360 degrees phenomenon. So I am aware of this moment outside and inside, 360 degrees, so all the way around me, but outside and inside as well. So it's very three-dimensional situation. It's like, ooh. Yeah, all that creates a sense of presence. And so we are in the present moment, in the here and now. What the mind does, it's moving from past to future, so never stops in the present. And in the present, actually, there is no mind most of the time. So we talk about sometime also of the vertical dimension versus the horizontal dimension. The horizontal dimension is the dimension of that we live normally. That is the dimension of the mind. So where there is a sense of time, a linear time, there's past here, future here, somewhere present in the middle. And then there is the vertical dimension, which is the dimension of presence, what we were talking about just now. And as a matter of fact, let me show you one thing that will make it more, sometimes having a visual also helps. Okay. This is a little sketch. Little sketch I did at one of the workshops. Okay. You see here, we have the horizontal dimension, which is the dimension of the mind. So there is future here, there's past here. Somewhere in the middle, there is a present moment. And then there is the vertical dimension, which is in the present, which is the dimension of the now. We have the here, which is in this case represented by earth underneath us and sky above. This defines the here. It's very much connected to the first anchor that we were practicing. To feel remember the feeling the gravitational pull, becoming aware of the weight of the body, and feeling the energy of the earth that attracts everything towards itself, as well as the sky that also attracts towards itself in a much more light, subtle ways, but still there. So that first anchor is also one way to become present, and this it's represented here as well. And the past and future are really not relevant when we meditate. What we want to put all our energy is the present moment. And so what is happening in the present moment? What is happening in this vertical dimension? The vertical dimension is the place where growth happens. So anything that is real happens in the present moment, obviously. Yeah. Nothing is happening in the past and nothing is happening in the future. In the past, something has happened when it was our present, but is no more. And in the future, maybe something will happen But in that moment will also be the present, right? So everything happens in the present moment. So anything that unfolds, growth in us happens in the moment, in the vertical dimension. The horizontal dimension is like I call it a virtual reality. It seems to exist because in our mind it's so present, but it doesn't exist. Yeah. And I'm not saying that it's not useful to use the mind because you have to plan something for the future sometime, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about let's not spend 90% of our life in that virtual reality because nothing happens there. It's a virtual reality. All that happens now in the present moment. So if we miss the present moment and we keep missing it because we're always lost in thought, we are not living our life because life happens now. So if we spend 90% of the time in our mind, in the thinking, we are missing 90% of our life. it's not a small thing, isn't it? So to bring ourselves back again and again, especially when we practice in this present moment, what's happening, perceiving inside and outside. What's happening on the outside, it's pretty obvious. There's not much to say, but we did say to be aware when we do things. Yeah, also in action. So mindfulness in action. I think I mentioned Wu-Wei, actionless action. So becoming aware in our daily routine or whatever we do, like the cup of tea example, going back to that. Washing the dishes, walking, talking to a friend, listening to a friend, anything, riding a bicycle, feeling the wind that on your face, driving a car, becoming aware of how many things you're aware in the moment you drive the car. So anything we do, bring presence to that. So that's the outer world. And that is a way to crystallize presence as well. It's a form of meditation and movement. Beautiful. When we sit and we close our eyes, we obviously focus on the inner world. What's happening there? We become aware of thoughts. So we said how to deal with thoughts. Well, there's not a lot to do, but becoming aware of them means you start seeing, oh, look at how my mind functions. I'm always thinking about what to do next, for example. Some mind are very future oriented. Some mind are very, I was going to say romantic, but somehow very past oriented, like, oh, it was so beautiful when, oh, I wish that it was still, oh, when I was young, I call them a little more like the nostalgic mind. Yeah, some mind are like that. And some mind, most of us have a mix of the two, But there is a dominant aspect. My mind is very future oriented, for example. A very controlling mind, the future oriented. It's always like it wants to know everything that will happen and how it will happen. And it should be like this and like that. And then it go on and on and on and on, planning the same thing 100 times as if one time is not enough, right? Like a broken records. Waste of energy. But that's how it is. So we become aware. Oh, look how my mind functions. Here it is again, planning for, wait a second, but I already thought about how to plan this thing. Why am I thinking again? Right? This is the 12th time I'm thinking this. Is it necessary? No. Okay, drop it. Yeah. So becoming aware of that we think and how we think. It helps a lot because we see the futility of it. The more you observe it, the more you realize, wait a second, it's not needed. Even though every thought wants to make me believe that it's so important. Wait, you have to think this again. Okay, but didn't I think it already 12 times? Yeah, but maybe you think it better this time. Wait. So every thought is like, it's so important as if your life depends on it. It's BS, as we say. It's not the case. It's not necessary. It's just the mind that wants to survive. It wants to, mind exists through thinking, through movement, through moving between past and future, away from the present moment. That's how mind exists. If you're simply present and you just are in this moment, the mind freaks out. So you will see that, okay, hey, it's already 10 seconds, you're not thinking anything. Wait a second, what about, what are we gonna do after breakfast? What happened an hour ago? So you watch that, look at that, the tricky mind. He always wants to be somewhere else. So you become aware of this playing games that the mind plays. That is becoming conscious. That's part of becoming conscious. That's not something esoteric, being present. It's simply observing what is happening. It's a very down-to-earth practice, meditation. There's nothing mystical like, ooh, I'm up finding the angels in the sky or, seeing blue lights. No, it's about seeing the bread and butter of our reality, So one chunk is taken by the mind. We observe that and we become aware how it functions. And we, through this attention, we disidentify from the mind slowly. Because the more unconscious we are, for example, of the thinking process, the more we identify with the thought. So if there is, for example, a thought that is very, I don't know, maybe I saw a terrible news on the TV. Well, they're all terrible usually. News on the TV. And and it was very scary, the virus or whatever, an accident or a catastrophe. And in the middle of the night that I wake up and I can't fall asleep and I think about the news that I saw the evening before and I think about that news, suddenly there is a sense of fear arising in myself, and I see my heart start beating faster and I feel anxiety because that thought was so charged with fear. And so here I am in the middle of the night, I'm in my bed, cozy, nothing is happening, and yet my heart is racing and I am in anxiety. Yeah. But if it's a virtual reality, it's not happening. Nothing is happening. I'm in bed in my comfortable, beautiful, cushiony bed in my home, safe, locked in. There's nothing happening. And yet I feel fear. Wow. So that is identification with the mind. That's an example. I'm so identified with a thought that I feel I have an emotion that is generated by that thought. That is total identification with the mind. Now, through the observation of the mind, if you practice, after a while, if the same, maybe the same mechanism happens, maybe the same thought is, maybe the news is remembered, but you see while it happens and you see, here goes the mind in the past. Oh, now it's remembering the news. And usually it might stop there. Just because you're aware that that thought is arising, you just let it go. It doesn't even progress. But if it does progress, you have enough awareness that you don't get to identify with it. So that anxiety and that fear provoked by the thought, it doesn't happen. Yeah. So in the practice, what happens through our practice is that it's not that the mind stops completely and boom, it's gone. It will still function and it will still do its thing because it wants to exist. But there is less and less identification. So you are less and less dependent and enslaved by the thinking process. So there is this thinking process happening, but you don't act according to every thought that crosses your mind. So that is a slow process of disidentification that happens through presence, through becoming more and more conscious. So you put your energy more and more in the vertical dimension that we talked about it, and less in the horizontal mind movement. Okay. In the moment when we are completely disidentified from the mind has no power over us at all. Then it becomes what it should be and what it was in the very beginning, which is a tool to be used when it's needed. Yeah. So it's great for organizing things, to functioning in the world, to function in the society. You need your memories, of course, because if you haven't memories, I tell you, I experienced that once and it's not comfortable. You know, if all your short-term memory happens, for example, you can't function very well at all. And I know it for experience. So that's necessary to function, but is not who we are. You see, the difference is big. The identification is the problem. Identification with the mind is a problem, not the mind itself. Okay, mind is necessary, it's needed, but is a tool that we should be able to turn on and off. You know, it's like a drill. You have a drill to make a hole in the wall. It's not that you keep the drill always on, right? You just turn it on and off. Okay, I need to make a hole in the wall. Now I turn it on. Here, the switch. I make the hole. How beautiful. Look, this tool. It just makes with the right drill bit, it makes a perfect hole. That's just what I needed. Beautiful tool. Then I turn it off and I put it down. Finished. Yeah. But the mind is a powerful tool. It's a power tool, literally. But we forgot where is the on and off. We can't find that switch anymore. So meditation is finding the switch so that there is enough distance. There's a mind and there is somebody that notices the mind. So suddenly there is a subject and an object. That's the beginning of disidentify from the mind. I see a thought. In the moment I notice it and I become aware of it, there is a distance between me that I'm noticing the thought and the thought. So there is an object, the thought, and me, subject. We are not identified in one sandwich anymore. We're like, there is a distance. The little distance is that what is needed to disidentify. And slowly, slowly, it takes time because this mind has been there for thousands of years. But slowly, slowly, disidentified from what your mind is saying, from your thoughts. And so when there is presence, there is a sense of awareness, consciousness. But there is not a thinking mind needed at all. There is a sense of presence. Through presence, we grow. because through presence we exist in the vertical line. And in the vertical line, that's any growth that can happen happens in that vertical dimension. It's pretty straightforward, isn't it? There's nothing like, we don't need to know about, the 5, 6, 7, 12, 200 chakras, whatever, how many you want. We don't need to know about how the universe functions. I mean, it's beautiful to be aware. It's beautiful to know things. It's beautiful to explore and understand the mystery of the body and of the universe and all the things that are around us. It's just the more you get to know it, the more you're filled with wonder, because it's like, wow, that's amazing. Yeah, it's beautiful to see that. It's amazing to know that a little sperm, when it meets an egg, forms this amazing being. If you look at the process, like, what? One cell, and then a cell that splits in two, and then a two that splits in four. And then to realize, wow, all these cells are equal. They're the same cells. Yeah, because they come from the same cell that gets split. So every cell, and yet there is a cell at a certain point that says, okay, we're going to take care of seeing, the sense of seeing. And other cells that at a certain point is like, we're going to take care of the hearing. What? And then certain cells say, okay, we create the lungs where the airs can come in. And it's like, the more you go into it, you go like, what the heck? How is it possible? This, we're talking about beyond perfection. I mean, if you look, what is this power that creates all this? The more you go into it, it must be fascinating to be a biologist or an astrophysic, and to go into the details of what happens, because I think you're bound to become a mystic eventually, because you realize there is an amazing force, a divine force that is creating everything and that keeps it in perfect balance. And if you look outside instead of inside, it's the same. If you think, wow, just in our little tiny speck of sand of solar system, there are like all these planets that are orbiting in perfect balance. And if one planet gets a little closer, or it would not be in the right place, like, a few centimeters more towards the sun, it will just get sucked into the sun and disappear. Or if another planet would be a little closer, would do planets would collide. No, everything is in perfect balance. And millions of stars and billions of planets and galaxies upon galaxies. The more now they have tools that can go further and further away. They send a satellite, they send scopes that go into the universe. They're traveling, passing, exiting our solar system now. And the more they go, there's like, there is no end. There is no end. It's an infinite universe in constant expansion. Not only it's infinite, it keeps expanding. So it's like, what? An infinity that is expanding. Our mind cannot grasp it, So it's beautiful to become aware of all this, because the more aware you become, the more you become a mystic. That's my take on it, because it's like, the mind cannot grasp the perfection that is surrounding us, that is around us and inside of us. This whole body is very much an expression of that. We are an expression of that. And we humans, as we were saying last time, we are the top of the pyramid, evolutionary pyramid on this planet. So we are the most evolved expression of this miracle. What a wondrous world. What a wondrous life. Yeah. So when you're filled with wonder, you also feel that there is something that you're missing. Yeah, that's usually why we come to meditation, because we feel there is something more that we haven't tapped into, that we haven't explored, that we haven't discovered. And so our work is to become more conscious, more and more conscious. This is the nature of consciousness. Consciousness wants to evolve. It's its very nature. And what does it mean to evolve? The only way we can evolve is in the present moment, is in that vertical line of presence. So it means spending our life more and more in that vertical dimension and away from the horizontal mind dimension. So coming back home, I would say, coming back home. And Zen, they say you start seeing your original face more and more through presence, discovering truly who you are. You're not your mind, and you start seeing that. You're not your thoughts. You're not your emotions. We didn't talk about that either. What to do with emotions? What are they? Well, a lot of the time you'll notice an emotion is attached to a thought. For example, in the example we did in the middle of the night, remembering having a memory, of the terrible news that you saw on TV, that is a thought that creates a fear. So in that case, it's obvious. It's an emotion that is attached to a thought. If you disidentify from the thought, that emotion disappears. So most of our emotions are connected to thoughts. It might not be an obvious thought. It might be a concept. It might be an idea. It might be preconceived ideas. But we have to bring awareness to the emotions as much as to the thoughts. We have to bring awareness to everything that is arising. So if an emotion arises, what do? I bring my attention, my awareness there. So while with the thinking mind to bringing awareness that I'm thinking, it's usually enough for the thought to lose energy and stops, because I remove my identification from it, right? Because I separate it from the thought. So the thought cannot exist by itself without my attention. With emotions it's important to be acknowledged. So bring attention. Maybe you feel like, I feel a little, I don't know what's happening. I feel like kind of like a sensation in my heart today. I don't know what it is, a little heaviness. Okay, so bring your attention there, because that's arising in your consciousness, right? That sensation is catching your attention and calling you. So bring your attention there, and you look, what is it? It's like, oh, I feel a heaviness. Okay, go into that feeling. What is it? Oh, I think it's sadness. Okay. Go into it. What is it? Feel it. Can you feel it? In the moment you feel its sadness, it helps you to feel it, to feel the sadness. In other words, feelings and emotions are there to be felt. That's why they exist. So it's important that we acknowledge them and feel them, and then we allow them to go. So we bring our light, the light of our awareness, of our consciousness, to the emotion. We recognize it for what it is. We feel it, and we realize, oh, and maybe there is a memory attached to it, or maybe not. Maybe it's like, well, I'm sad because actually I didn't realize, I didn't like that exchange I had with my friend yesterday, and it left me sad in my heart. You know, I was not even aware of it. So nothing wrong with emotions, again, but emotions that we're not aware, they are not in the conscious, are in the subconscious. And in the subconscious, they will affect your life, much like the thoughts. So nothing wrong with emotions, but they need to be brought to the light. They need to be brought to the conscious part of us, not in the subconscious. Yeah. So when you don't want to feel something, you push it down in the subconscious because for whatever reason, I'm not ready to deal with this. Okay, then you push it down. You don't feel it and you shovel it in the basement. With meditation, we allow slowly, this subconscious starts becoming conscious because we start feeling and observing everything. So things starts coming up from the subconscious in the conscious so that they can be perceived as seen and felt. So some emotions, sometimes they come from the subconscious and suddenly you're sitting there and it's like, whoa, why am I sad suddenly? You know, it doesn't matter. Feel it. And then, as I said, it might be that there is something that happened that you're still carrying it, for example, or maybe not. But they need to be acknowledged. And once they're acknowledged, usually they release their hold on you and you're free from it. If they stay in the subconscious, you're never free from them because you're not even aware that they're affecting your choices in your life. That's what happens when a trauma is locked in the subconscious, for example. You might not be able to see it for your whole life and it will still affect your life. But affect because it's not conscious. Yeah, it's not in your awareness. So it's important that emotions and feelings are acknowledged and felt and then released. The more aware you are of a feeling, the easier, or an emotion, the easier it is to let it go afterwards. It's when it's not in the, when it's in the subconscious, so I'm acting from an old wound, for example, or a sadness or a pain that is there, and I'm not even aware that it's there, and yet it's affecting my actions. Sometimes we go back to do the same thing that will create that same pain over and over, like a wound. And we don't know, but why am I attracted to this person that actually it hurts me, this person, you know, and yet you're attracted and maybe you're in a relationship with them or whatever, you know, maybe you seek. What's happening is that unconsciously you're triggering that wound that is in the subconscious. It's a way to, maybe it's a way of our being to say, hey, look deeper, you know, where is this hurt coming from really? Is it coming from that person? Or that person is simply triggering this thing that is already in you, but it's in the subconscious. So the more conscious we become, also, of course, of our emotions and feelings, the more free we are. So free from emotions, free from thoughts, that's part of that process of living more and more in the vertical reality, vertical dimension of presence. Okay. Oh my God, so much stuff has come out of me. Sometimes I'm like, where is all this stuff coming from? But I think it's enough. I don't want to fill you with, but very, very important things we looked at. So why don't we practice a little bit together? And today I like to use what I told you, then I'll do that. I will use the little bell, so you'll hear a sound. You go through your process, I'll guide you slightly a little bit. So use the anchors to anchor yourself to the present moment. Use the sense of gravity. Use the breath. Use the observation of that space between two thoughts. Yeah. Anytime you see you're drifting away with thinking, you notice it, take all that energy back to the present moment between the two thoughts. Allow yourself to rest in that space. And then you see the mind that wants, no, but, and you go like, no, not now. Let me just be here. And then another thought will try to come in, but no, not now, later. This is not the time. I don't need you. Yeah? Just bring your attention more and more into this space. What is here? Maybe you'll see feel some emotion. Maybe you'll sense things. Whatever is there, just let it be for what is. Bring your awareness to that space between two thoughts. Okay? And then you will hear a little bell. Ding. In that moment where you hear the sound, I want you to notice where is your attention in that moment. Okay? If it's in the body, if it's in that space between two thoughts, beautiful. It's nothing to do. Just keep being there and observing and feeling and sensing. If you're like, oh my God, I was going to somewhere else with my thought, then I want you to notice very briefly, was that a thought about the future or about the past? Okay. Very briefly, simply, oh, I was imagining that, okay, future, boom, finito, finished, come back to the present. Or, well, what was it I was thinking? Oh, I was remembering past. Okay, that's it. Simply that. Define it, past or future, or memory or imagination. Just give it a definition and you let it go. This is just an exercise to become more aware of how our mind functions. So the bell will be our reminder to, oh, where am I? Where is my attention? What is happening? If you're in the present moment, through feeling, through sensing in the body, whatever it is, emotion, beautiful, keep moving. If you're lost in thought, just see that thought for what it was. Define it and come back. Okay? All clear? Good. So find a comfortable position to sit. And when you're ready, close your eyes and start bringing your attention inward. What does my body feel like from the inside? Feel the body. See if there is any little tension that you're still carrying. Bring your attention there and release it. Allow your body to relax more and more and fall. Feel the pull of the earth on every part of your body. As it relaxes, you just let it fall down a little bit. That's what relaxation is. Not fighting the pull of the earth, but relaxing. Becoming aware of the weight of the body, on the cushion, on the chair, on the floor. And as you relax more, you feel like you're letting go into the earth, as if you're sinking, almost physically sinking into the ground, the floor a little more. Or sinking into the couch or the pillow. Just rooting yourself, grounding yourself in this place. Sitting like a mountain, well grounded, part of the earth. Have that feeling or imagine it. Imagine you are a sitting mountain. So relaxed and you cannot move it, unmovable. And the top of that mountain is the top of your head. It's a high peak, maybe covered with snow. And the sunlight high in the sky, so there is a pull, very, very gentle sensation, gentle tagging that lift you up to the top of the head. That's a sky energy, very subtle and yet very vast as the sky. So the tip of the mountain is maybe in the clouds or maybe in the blue sky, in the sunlight. That's the top of your head. And that energy sustains you by pulling upwards slightly, helping your spine to be straight and your neck aligned. Just be aware of these two energies happening at the same time along a vertical, imaginary vertical line that can actually feel physical as well. Maybe not so an imagination, but can be also an experience. Sitting here, now, in this place, in this moment. Allowing sky and earth to exist and pull gently towards themselves. And the body is the bridge between these two. That's where these two energies cross and meet inside of our body. When we perceive them both, we sit in perfect balance, right in the middle of these two forces. And right in the middle, you might perceive maybe your belly becomes more a perception, like the center between these two forces. You perceive the movement of your breath, the breathing happening by itself. Also in that space between earth and sky. You observe the breathing as it happens by itself, floating in this inner space. Maybe you notice your belly rising and falling with the breath. Maybe you notice the air coming in at the nostrils, the lungs getting filled. Any sensation, you just become aware of it in this moment. Keep observing anything that is perceived in the inner space. Your attention might move from one to another, or you might be aware of many things at the same time. Just feel that presence, your own presence, as you observe, notice, sense, feel all that is happening, or nothing. Maybe nothing is happening. Maybe just a sense of space. Beautiful. All is good. There's no right and wrong. Notice where is your attention. Notice where is your attention. And if it was on a thought, carried away by a thought, notice what was that thought? Was it about past or future? And then you come back to the present. Embodying your own presence in this moment. Feeling, noticing, sensing, watching. Existing in this vertical reality of your own presence. noticing. And slowly coming back. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Good. So I would like to open the space if anybody would like to share something or has a question or something you notice that you'd like to share or anything. Yeah. Who was first? Maria or Jennifer? Let me see. Jennifer, go first. Somebody has to start.
Hi, thank you for that. How would you describe thinking about a concept? Is it something in the past or future? Because I started thinking about what you were talking about, the universe, which I identified as something from the past. But then I started to think about concepts about the universe. And then I was thinking, oh, is this the past or the future? Because the universe is existing now. So am I in the present? And then I got into that loop. So I just wondered what your thoughts would be about that.
Well, basically, you cannot think about the present.
Okay.
I mean, there's nothing to think about. You can have a thought about, oh, I feel so present in this moment. I'm in the present. I'm in the present. You know, maybe your mind starts going like that. It doesn't gonna make you more present. Yeah, there's nothing to think. It's about being, not thinking, no?
Yeah.
And it's not about doing either. It's about being. Thinking is a way of doing. The mind is always doing. Every thought is about movement and doing. It may be imagination, it might be memory, it doesn't matter. Now, of course, if you're a scientist, there's a moment for that where your mind is used to analyze things or it's used to conceptualize something. You know, science is a beautiful expression of how the mind can be used in a creative way, for example. But it's not meditation. It's more like focus, concentration. It's very different. So you focus the energy and the attention of your mind to an object. Yeah, it might be the universe, or it might be a cell, an atom, it doesn't matter. But you focus your attention there and you try to penetrate it, to penetrate that object through your observation. And that's power of concentration, which is used and beautifully used in a creative way with science, for example. But the mind is not made to penetrate the inner reality. It's not made for that. It's made to penetrate the outer world, possibly to a certain extent. It's made to function in the world, but it's not made to penetrate the inner beingness. It's just not made for that. So it has no use for that. It becomes an hindrance. It becomes an obstacle, as a matter of fact, because it takes the compulsive thinking takes a big chunk of our life. So then that space that the mind is taking could be lived through experiencing life. But instead of experiencing life, we think about life. So it doesn't take you anywhere. It's not the vertical dimension we're talking about. You're still in the horizontal. So you cannot think it. The mind is like, I often describe it as a pendulum. Sometimes it swings to the past, sometimes to the future, past, future. And then if the pendulum stops, where does it stop? Right on that vertical line of the present moment, right? You can imagine a pendulum on a clock, like the old clocks, right? If it stops, it's right in the middle. That's the present moment. But it stopped. That means there is no mind. Yeah. I don't know if that helps or answer your question.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for asking. Yeah. Maria, I wanted to say something. Here.
I was imagining pictures like a dream, and I couldn't tell it is the past or is it the future. It was like a dream, and then I was judging. I was waiting for the bell. Oh, I have to be present.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yes, my question is about these pictures. How can I define it, or yes?
What to do with it?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's interesting that you used the word dreaming, because the conscious mind functions through concept. So if you know, it's like thoughts are like concept put together, memories or imaginations. But if you notice, and you guys can watch it tonight when you go to sleep, when you are in bed and you start feeling that you're falling asleep, if you keep watching what happens inside, you will see that the thoughts are no more, there are no more concept and words, but images start coming. It's like a movie, right? When you start seeing images, you know within a few seconds you're gone, you're asleep. That's the beginning of sleep. So dream, we could say that that's the way the mind functions in the wake and in sleep. In sleep functions through images, in the wake through concept and words and language. So we could say that our thinking during the day, you know, sometimes we say, oh, I'm daydreaming. It's exactly what it is. You can be lost in thought, you're dreaming. It's like a dream that happens in the wakeful state. So thoughts are like daydream, and dreams are night thought that happens through images. Yeah. So either way is still a function of the mind that is functioning in two different ways. Now, and there is a third dimension that could be, that is not imagination, but that sometimes for certain people, they perceive energy, for example, as colors. You know, it doesn't happen to me, but some people have a visual experience of the present moment. And that visual experience is always changing, because everything in the present is always floating and changing. It's in constant transformation. But again, it doesn't matter what you see. Again, the focus is always to be brought back to the one who is seeing. So I don't know if we talk about this, but it's not the experience in itself. What you're experiencing is not important, is the experiencer that is our focus. So again, we keep coming back to, okay, but who is seeing the colors? You want to go back there to the source. Who is seeing my thoughts? Who is perceiving the emotions? That's true being. Your being, we call it, there's a nice definition, I like it, is your impersonal nature, which is this consciousness that is aware of everything. That's who you are. That is the subject. Then everything that it's emotion or images or colors or experiencing of any kind or thoughts, those are all experiences that happen within this consciousness. So it's like consciousness, which is you actually. It's like a big container. You can imagine like a big ball containing this space in which everything is experienced. But you are the experiencer, the subject. And every experience, everything that happens, everything that is perceived, we can say it's an object. So it's still external to you. Even though it feels like it's inside, it's not inside. In your center, there is no experience. There is space and awareness and consciousness.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Yeah. Rafaela.
Hi.
Hi.
Sometimes I'm meditating and sometimes I get insight.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm getting clear not just about feelings, but I get a gestalt, I get
An insight, an
yes.
understanding.
Yes. Is it a thinking or what is it?
No, it happens. Those insights happen because your mind stopped. So they don't come from the mind. They come usually from a space of no mind. So there is an understanding. We call it understanding, or you call it insight, that comes out of that moment of total space and relaxation and presence.
Okay.
Yeah, it's almost like you're permeating a deeper layer of that reality in that moment. You know, there's an understanding that arises out of the penetration of the present moment.
And then it's like a gnocchi is coming up.
Yes, when the gnocchi are cooked and they start floating, bravo.
But
Yes.
it's like this stuff, and then they are staying. So it's yeah. Mm-hmm.
You don't know what to do with the gnocchi?
Eat them. Enjoy.
Enjoy, they're cooked. Yeah, there's nothing to do with it. It's an understanding. It might just stay with you forever. If it's like it's an understanding and insight that is arising from your deeper self, and it will just stay there. It's sometimes it's like a part of your subconscious that became conscious. You can also look at it like that. Like we were saying before, you know, it's like a little light. Something that was dark suddenly becomes lit with the light of your awareness. It's beautiful. Yeah, it happens. Now, that is not the thinking mind we're talking about. That's very different. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for sharing, though.
Thank you.
Prem? Yeah, here you are.
I was thinking about words that are actually not thoughts, they are just like fragments of thoughts.
Yes.
Is that the thinking mind or just a residual of something?
Yeah, the mind in itself, it's really, if you observe it, is like many fragments. You know, it's not like one thought that is always there. For example, you know, there are many thoughts that come and go. So if you really break it down, they're all fragments. Every thought is a fragment. The mind in itself is a tool that is very good for dissecting and dividing. So the mind in itself is a fragmentation. As a matter of fact, we are fragmenting through the mind, we are fragmenting our reality and put it in boxes, you know. For example, a simple example of our concept of what is beautiful and what is ugly, or what is right and what is wrong. We create a box and then we perceive one thing and we say, oh, how ugly, and we put it in the ugly box, or oh, how beautiful, and we put it in the beautiful box. That's what the mind does. It's fragmenting reality in many, many boxes. When there is no mind, we can perceive what is, because we are not fragmenting it in that moment. So it's the filter of the mind divides the reality, and what we want is to perceive the whole picture. Again, if I make a practical example, let's say you see a beautiful sunset or a moon rising. Last night was full moon, it was amazing. And in that moment that you're not thinking, this image of the moon rising behind the mountains or the sunset is like, wow, it fills you with a sense of awe and beauty or whatever it is, you know? And it's like your mind stops because it's like, ah, wow. And there is a sense of awe, you know, and you are there with this experience of this phenomenon happening. Then the mind starts coming in and it starts saying, oh, how beautiful, you know, the first concept, how beautiful. Oh, what's the need to say beautiful? There's no need to say it, but the mind starts defining it. You know, or it says, wow, it's just like a postcard, you know, he would say something like that. And that experience dies, you know, that sense of awe and presence, it's gone, you know. But slowly, slowly, you can see it, observing it. The more the mind creates concept around what you're experiencing, the more the experience is over, it's finished. That sense of awe, the sense of being one with that experience is gone. So mind is fragmentation. And what it does, it fragments realities so that we cannot perceive it as a whole. We're just many little boxes, but we cannot see what is the big picture unless the mind stops and there is presence. Then we perceive more and more the whole picture. So fragments of thoughts, yes, they are thoughts. It's still the same mind. And as a matter of fact, mind is fragmentation. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question, Prem. Now you're frozen. I think your connection is a little slow, but thank you for asking that.
Thank you.
And Nicole wanted to say something. You have to unmute yourself, I think.
Yeah, I'm unmuted now. Hi.
Hi.
When we were in the process, I was in the past twice. The first time I was in the past with thinking about something what my daughter said, what emotionally hit me. And the second time it was my dad. I was there yesterday. He is leading on dementia, and he was also very emotional. And then it hit me that that I could see that I was being leading by their emotion, and I was not in my own emotion. So when we're doing the meditation, then there was also a moment of silence within me, like, this is me.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not the feelings from the other persons, but the feelings from the other persons were so inside of me that I could not divide it from them.
Separate, yeah.
Yes, separate from them.
Yeah.
So then I thought, okay, because I'm all, it's one of my, maybe weaknesses, that I feel so much emotion from other people that sometimes I feel very tired of that.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm being taken away with their emotions.
Yeah.
So I think it was an insight that I could also be my own feeling.
Nice feeling, huh?
Yeah, it was really relaxing and calming. Like, oh, okay, this is me, and this is
Yes. Very good, very good, very important. Now, what you said, what you shared, but beautiful that you are aware of that. You have to pat yourself on the shoulder. Because that is awareness. That's becoming conscious of, oh wow, I feel this, but it's actually not my feeling. It's somebody else that I picked up and I'm carrying it inside. Yeah, a lot of people live all their life without realizing that. So it's very good, excellent, and it's a beautiful quality that humans have, empathy, and empathy is the feeling that what allows you to feel what somebody else is feeling. We say, I feel for you, or I feel for them. It's a beautiful thing. And it's part of it's one of the qualities of the heart. When the heart is open, it feels. That's what it's made for. But the beautiful thing is that you feel more everything, though. That means you feel the beauty, of a moon rising or a sunset, or, of nature around you when you walk in the forest, whatever, of the joy to drink a cup of tea. Everything is more, not only that. So that's a good side.
Yeah.
And so in meditation, we become more present, which means also we become more open, because we are not like closed by the mind, but we are slowly relaxing and opening and allow our beingness to be there. It means we are more open. We feel more. Definitely, that happens in the path of meditation. You will notice you feel more and more. So you feel more people, the people around you, you feel them more. But you also feel life more. You're more alive. Every experience is more lively. It's like more present. So it's a good thing. But of course, we use our discerning understanding, our consciousness, our awareness to do exact that, discern, oh, this is what he is feeling. Yeah, I don't need to carry this. I feel it because I'm open. And that's a beautiful thing. It's part of my empathic, open heart. But it's not what I am feeling. It's not my feeling. It's not me in this moment. So I can put it aside. And just to be able to see it usually is enough to separate. So just like with thoughts. In the moment you see that you're thinking, you separate. Your consciousness separates from the thought, and then suddenly, oh, this is me and this is the thought. Wait a second. I don't need to believe that. That's a thought, right? I don't need to get scared about a thought or whatever. Feel something according to that thought, like we said before. And the same with this case, no? Oh, this is the way he feels, but it doesn't mean I have to feel like that and keep caring and keep feeling like that because he feels like that. So simply to see that it's not your feeling, but it's something you picked up from somebody else is usually enough to separate, as you said, beautifully described, and then suddenly, oh, here I am. This is my space. Oh, oh, nice space. I can relax here. No, there's a sense of presence, and it's light, and it's you don't carry anything that is not yours. And the mind is.
I have really to practice that because it was the first time I felt like that.
Sure. But that's exactly what we do with the mind. We think that this is my thought, but it's all a conglomerate of fragments put together, created by memories. The mind is just, it's not us. It's a lot of fragments. It's a lot of concept that somehow we absorb and put them in the different folders in the hard drive. And then we think, oh, that's me. No, it's not. So you're not those thoughts, and also you're not those feelings and emotions that you pick up from other people. And even your own emotions sometimes are just connected to thoughts. So if you get rid of the thoughts, suddenly the emotions disappear, or the concept, you know? So it's practice. We all have that practice. That's what meditation is about. So don't worry, you're not alone in this boat. We're all floating in that. We all have our homework to do, and that's exactly what it is. Slowly, slowly it happens. We free ourselves, slowly, slowly, but steady, through presence, through awareness. Nice. Thank you for sharing that. Very, very important aspect. Good. Anything else that was to be shared? Okay. If there is nothing else, then I'll close the session here. I think we had a nice dive today. There's a lot to process and let it sink in and ponder over it, and don't think about it too much. But practice. Huh? Try to cut a little time in your day to sit if you can, even 10-15 minutes if you're really, really busy. I know that many of you have more time these days, so take advantage of that. Half an hour sitting is good. If you want to sit more, then sit more, whatever feels right. And then apply that mindfulness in action. Also, not only when you're sitting, but when you're doing, be present with whatever you do. It's a beautiful way to crystallize that sense of presence. Okay. And one last thing. Well, I should have said it earlier because a lot of people left, but if you can come 5 minutes earlier, it would be great. Like today, there were like 5-6 people that came in like late, and then you miss a part. I usually follow a thread that is much easier to follow if you catch the beginning. And yeah, just value that this is precious time, and I'm here to share something. I'm not charging anything for this. It's a gift that is given to me, and I want to pass it on, but value it as a precious thing that will help you to live a better life. So try to make the effort to be here 5 minutes before rather than 10 minutes later, just to show respect towards yourself, if not towards me. Okay. Namaste, everybody. Much love, and I'll see you next Friday.